Okay, so in the spirit of Fixer-Upper, we will be using student writing to remodel instruction. Today's presentation is a remodel of the protocol that we have used in the district. Over the past 2 years, we have asked all the 7th grade writing teachers to come together and to protocol student writing together. This year, we renovated the idea to focus on teams working together as PLCs to use student writing to inform instruction. Today, you will be experiencing an abbreviated version of this PLC process. For the sake of time, you will be looking at fewer student work samples, but the thinking and the process will be the same. We will be using essays from the 2016 STAR scoring guide since it aligns to the recently given benchmark. Additionally, we will be using the characteristics of expository writing, which was developed by marrying Write for Texas resources and the TEA rubric. If you take this process back to the PLC as reading teachers or with other writing modes, you would then match your success criteria to the given writing prompt that you are giving. Okay, so in your folders, you will have a white sheet that is titled Analyzing Student Writing. You can take that out, please. Our goal today is written at the top, and it says we are going to be assessing the progress of writing by gathering data from student essays. Our 2 guiding questions: what am I learning about my students as writers, and what are the implications for my teaching? So today you're going to be working 2 things. First you'll be working independently, and then you'll be coming together as your table group to continue the conversations of the writing essays.
Okay, for those of you not familiar with the show Fixer-Upper, Real Estate Day is when the participants survey several houses and narrow it down to just one. In this process, your real estate is the essays written by your students. In the first part, you will narrow down all of the essays to a campus sampling set. When you go through this process with your PLC on your campus, you will follow the following steps. First, you will randomly divvy up all the essays among team members. Then you will individually find 3 to 4 possible examples for each score point within your stack of essays. Then, as a team, narrow down the examples for each score point to 6. And then finally, set aside remaining essays. For today's purposes, we have a pre-selected campus sampling set, which are TEA released essays. Why is sampling? With the sampling, you will be looking for 18 to 24 essays to look for a big picture trends. These are not individualized learning plans, not yet. This process is looking for across grade level trends that are an instructional concern and need to be targeted and should guide instruction moving forward. You will still use these essays through student conferences to individualize instruction with small groups and specific students. So a key feature of the show is when the homeowners weigh the pros and cons of each house to determine what changes need to be made to the property. In that vein, in part 2 of this process, you will work with your PLC, and in this case, your table team. Each member will individually read the essays in the campus sampling set. As you read, use the characteristics of expository writing for organization to help you keep track of trends in the writing. Today, we are only giving you 10 minutes to experience this part, so read as many essays as you can within that time. The important part is keeping notice of trends you begin to see emerging in the writing. We've provided post-its to make note of the positive trends you see, as well as trends that need a little TLC.
All right, now that you've had the opportunity to study student writing, you will work with your PLC to discuss the campus trends that emerged as you were reading. As your PLC discusses these trends, use the plus delta chart on the instructional design blueprint, this is found in your folder, to record data gathered from the campus sampling set. You can do this by score point or overall. Either way, keep these focused, guiding questions in mind as you discuss your findings. For the positives, what do our students demonstrate that they are doing well in terms of organization? And we're focusing on organization because that was the writing focus of the second 9 weeks. For the delta column, what do we need to teach our students in terms of organization? Again, you'll have 10 minutes for this part, so you're discussing with your PLC.
Manual evidence, and that's what we have to get them to see. So it's
All right.
okay, take your phone.
Y'all were having some really good conversations. Thank y'all for that. So on the show, the Fixer Upper, the design meeting is where Joanna sits down with the couple and presents a design plan for the property. So in part 3 of our process, you will continue to work with your PLC to design targeted instruction. You're going to plan or start to plan mini lessons targeted at the areas for growth from the Delta column on the instructional design blueprint. It's on the back of the plus Delta chart. So if you flip that page over, you'll see a horizontal table. As you plan, consider new and innovative ways to teach concepts. Make sure to include mentor texts, modeling, and opportunities for feedback, both peer and teacher. Plan for scaffolding and/or extensions for special populations. Again, for today's purposes, we're only going to give you 10 minutes to experience this part of the process.
So this is whole class here, whole class slash pair. This is pair.
All right, so if you could bring your conversations to a close.
This would be individual or back to pair.
So you've had your design meeting, the renovation process. The rest of the renovation process is really in your hands. How you deliver your lessons and the fidelity that you keep to the design plans created with your PLC will determine the end result. Remember though, this is a process. You can use additional student work samples as formative assessment to further inform your renovation as you go. Changes might need to be made. We have a video for you. It's a brief testimonial from Garner Middle School's 7th grade ELA teachers about how this process that they went through after the fall benchmark worked for them.
Well, for the process, what we did is we discussed where our students were at that time. And what we discovered, we had to meet our students where they were. And after discussing with each other, we discovered that our students are very strong in organization, but they were losing their voice. And we wanted to bring their voice back, and we had to discuss how we were going to do that. So we looked at their writing and discovered that their controlling ideas were taken very specifically from the prompt. So we discussed how we were going to try to change that.
Creating mini lessons focused on truisms to bring in a more insightful controlling idea, a deeper understanding of the prompt, and hoping their paper then would follow with that insight.
Our focus for a long time was a very, very strong draft, and we discovered that the process of revision was so much more important. So we discovered a quicker draft would make the process easier for them to have a quick draft, so then they could go back and spend most of the quality time on revision. And so that's what we discovered after looking at their papers a second time after the benchmark, that the revision was the key part. And that's where we thought the growth came from.
And focus most of the writing process then on revisions.
We would spend now about 4 days on strong brainstorming activities, and then maybe flexible, but two days on drafting, but then another week on revision. And for us, that has really been a key point on making the paper stronger and going back into their papers. We want them to go back into their papers continually, so that's been helpful.
What do you want to share with other teachers about the whole process of analyzing student work, meeting students where they are to drive instruction forward?
I would say I've taught for a long time, and I think what I'd like to share with teachers is to be open to change and to be open to look at your students and to be open to trying different things. You know, when you're thinking that you've got a way that you want to teach it. And for a while, organization was my focus. And so, but then I discovered that revision now, at least with my students where they're at now, revision was the focus that we needed. So for me to tell teachers to be okay with changing your thought process a little bit, not being afraid of it, just diving in and doing every lesson can be different. Don't think that you've got the idea set for the month because it's may have to change.
And just changing from year to year, class to class, the students are in different places and different needs. Some are great at organization, some are great at figurative language, and so figuring out what their strong points are and what their weaknesses are and targeting those. And again, the way that worked last year might not work this year.
And I just feel for us, conferences is so important for us. If we can find the time to individually meet with the students, that's where Charlie and I try to focus most of our attention is if we can get time with them individually, maybe 3 with a conference 3 to 1, that's where the most benefit comes from.
We see the most growth.
For so long, they were focused on just organization. They thought, like, in their minds, that's what their kids struggled with, was organization. But what they realized was it really wasn't necessarily organization per se on the onset. It was going back later and revising for organization. So they shifted their focus and they moved to a rapid draft rather than focusing so much on organization before students started drafting. And by doing a rapid draft and then going back and doing a series of mini lessons and then having students immediately revise what they all had already written for organization, focus, transitions, whatever it may be, right? They found that they had, in the end, they had better writing. So that's really what they talked about. And then we asked, what else would you like to share, like, with teachers in this process? And they just really said, be open. Don't go into it thinking like, you know, this is what my students have always struggled with, right? So this is what they're going to struggle with. Like, really be students of your students, right? Read their essays and learn from them. So there were some really good insights from them. Okay, so the big reveal. So what about the big reveal at the end? It's in the student writing. Here's work from a student at Gardner Middle School. The before essays were from the fall benchmark. That's what we protocoled. The after essays were written in the latter part of the second 9 weeks. It's a different essay topic, but you can really see how the kids grew in their writing and how that growth aligned to the renovations that the teachers made in their teaching. This is just one example. You'll see some other examples on your table. On the ivory paper, we have several, I think 6 different examples of the before and afters. And their discovery was really had to do with the controlling idea. They shifted their controlling idea from being taking from the prompt. Really, that's what they found their kids were doing. And they presented this idea to the kids of using truisms as the controlling idea, much like the 11-minute essay in Gretchen Burnaby's book. So that was the focus of their controlling idea revision, along with some other things. We have this cute little video clip, right? Where she now says, are you all ready to see your fixer-uppers? So really, at this point, we're done with the presentation, but I know Nita has sent an email out to all the department chairs and then your deans saying that specialists will be contacting you for support. So this is what we would be doing. If we came out and worked with the 7th grade ELA teachers, this is the protocol that we would bring with us. Going through the writing benchmarks, finding a campus sampling set, looking for those larger trends across the grade level to see how can we focus our mini lessons. So if you know that this is something that you want to be happening with your 7th grade ELA teachers, you'll be hearing from us soon. Any questions before we leave tonight? All right, well, thank you all so much. Y'all have a good night. Stay warm.
So like, instead of typing it, yes.